So welcome back to the Wedding Capture Co podcast, a podcast for wedding photographers and videographers run by myself, Tom, and my good buddy, Chris.
Hello.
So it's been a while since we've sat down to have a catch up, so that is what this episode is mostly about, and we dive into the kind of the tribulations of Google Gate and obviously all the things that came with that. Chris is sat here on the eve of a trip to Como for his first destination wedding, so we dive into kind of all of the build up and logistics going into planning a wedding, and we've also bought some new camera kits. There's a little bit of gear talk in there for people that like that sort of stuff, and there's also a cheeky plug for our workshop as well, which is coming up in November. Well, it's nice to see you, Chris. It's been absolutely freaking ages since we recorded. It feels like forever.
It's been a while since we've recorded. We have seen each other since.
We have, yeah. We've seen each other socially. We've shot weddings together in the meantime.
Yes.
But it's been, about 6 weeks since we've been sat in this room in front of the light and the camera.
So we're sat here beginning of August, what is it, like 12th of August as we record this. No, it's been 2 months. It's been 2 months since we recorded.
Wow.
Is it? No, that can't be right. It's been a month.
About
6 weeks. Yeah. Which is crazy, but just the way it worked out in terms of like our availability and some of the guests we had on and things like that. We had a lot of, a few weeks where we were sort of recording a bit more regularly than usual. And so when you're hearing this, it will be like the regular schedule would have been kept to. Yeah. But for us, we've had a long period where we haven't recorded. And it's kind of nice to have that in July, to be fair.
I'm also pretty proud. I know last year there were a couple of times where due to kind of you had that really, really manic July, I had a more manic August, that in the end there were a couple of times where it did then sort of start to roll over to like the third week, didn't it? Before before it was like, we did miss a couple of episodes, if you like, or there were delays to them going out. I'm pretty proud that both of us are shooting kind of similar numbers to last year, and that we've actually got to a point where we were ahead on episodes.
Yes, and we haven't missed our 2 weeks.
And at the moment, schedule. I'm hoping it's looking, sort of touching anything that's wooden around me, that we will be able to keep our regular every other week schedule.
Yeah, and that's what I've enjoyed about doing like every other week, is it doesn't feel like too much pressure. Because we record 2 in a day anyway, so we really only have to record once a month anyway. But yeah, the fact that we've managed to keep up with that and still go over the summer, when I know like there are podcasts that sometimes like during the summer they'll just like not release for a few weeks.
Chris is throwing shade over there. He knows exactly who he's talking about, and I'm not going to name drop, and those guys are busier than we are.
I'm only saying it because I miss it.
I do, but again, and I think that's it, isn't it? Is in whether it's in podcasting or in business or whatever, I think consistency is key, and I do the same. I still go there and go, but there's not one. And it makes me sad because I enjoy listening to that podcast, and hopefully there are some sad people out there that enjoy listening to us that do go every other Thursday. Yeah. And then if there wasn't one there, that would be sad.
We did have comments last year when there's weeks where we didn't sort of record or release. They're like, woke up this Thursday and didn't get a notification saying you released a new episode. I was absolutely gutted, and so people do sort of think about it.
And don't ever sort of underestimate that we both are really grateful that these conversations do descend kind of out of this room, and people are listening to them on the way to weddings and stuff like that. So we are we're happy that we are still managing to serve you every other week at the moment and keeping that schedule.
Yes, and I hope all your seasons are going well. Obviously, by the time this releases, it'll be sort of end of August, I think, something like that. So everyone's going to be, July and August is going to be done, and it's that sort of time of year where even if you don't sort of overwork yourself, you're still probably thinking, it's been a crazy summer already. I
always think of September as like the last hurdle. Yeah, like a computer game, like September's the final boss. Yeah. Because and again,
for you it literally is as well.
Yeah, we don't have children, but if you have managed to survive 6 weeks of trying to shoot weddings, edit weddings, and look after, having your house full of your kids, that's tough. And I speak to photographers in our circles who do have children and do find it really tough to kind of navigate, trying to keep up with their editing schedules around childcare. So if we can get to a point where you get through September, that is kind of the bulk of the summer done, isn't it? October, November, there are still weddings happening. Yeah. But kind of if you can get through this kind of that last hurdle of September, I feel then that you're winning.
That's when the heat map starts to sort of die out, and you're like, okay, right, on to editing now, sort of thing. And
talking of not having children at home, I do not know what my dog is doing.
He is. Well, he's sunbathing, but he's also just barking out there. I doubt anybody will be able to hear him through the microphones, but
he's quite annoying.
He's kicking off out there.
And literally in that moment that I was saying that how blissful that we can get stuff done, that we don't have annoyances, and then literally he chirps up.
And also he's injured, isn't he?
He is, he hurt his little leg, so he's probably just whinging about that. But that's a story for another day. That's not photo or video related. So obviously we're sat here as well, and today, for all the things we've just said that we normally record 2 in a day, we are only doing 1 in a day today because you've got to go home and pack your suitcase, haven't you?
Yes, so I'm off to Como, which we'll probably get into in a lot more detail later on. But so we're recording once today just because I'm off to Como and I want to I've got a few trailers to get out before I
Have
go.
you?
Yeah. I'm a little bit behind on trailers. I'm ahead of full films, but I'm behind on trailers, which is it's usually sort of the other way around. But I'm really keeping up to date with the longer films this time. So it's not like getting to when it gets to sort of December, it's normally my sort of longest wait time, just because it just piles up in the summer. And the backlog is definitely getting, definitely there at the moment. But I'm feeling quite confident that if I keep the sort of flow of editing that I'm on now, then it won't be as bad. So
see, I'm in a kind of smug position at the moment that my editing's actually okay.
Yeah.
I feel I've said this maybe in other episodes. At the moment, I have managed to to keep myself. I am bang on 6 weeks at the moment, which I think is okay.
Yeah.
Like I kind of feel like I've had a good couple of weeks of catching up, where obviously I had the week off when I went away, so I kind of suffered it, but then I've caught up again.
Yeah.
But then I know I voice noted you the other day, or when we met, I was saying I've only just dawned on me how busy my September is.
Yeah.
Like I've been like, my weddings are really spread out this year. I've got weddings in every month of the year, and so if you work on the maths that I'm doing sort of 36 weddings over 12 months, that have an average of 2 or 3 a month.
Yeah.
And then
The closer it got to September.
now I've just realised that I've been telling people all year I've only got one double this year, and it's in the first week of September.
Yeah.
That double was now actually turned into a 3 in 4 days, and I've just taken on a commercial client for the 2 days off in the gap as well. So I'm doing 6 jobs in 6 days, I think now.
And 8 weddings as well.
And then 8 weddings in the month.
Yeah.
So I think it means then that literally after that I'm doing sort of 1 or 2 in October, 1 in November, 1 in December. So September really is that final boss for me, and my editing will go out the window by the time we get to the end of that month, because the days in between those jobs, well, some days there aren't days in between jobs, and they're not going to be spent. They're going to be literally just kind of final meetings, kind of weathering the storm of rest and admin rather
But
than...
at least you have September and then a bit of October to like catch up on those edits and things like that. And then we go away, don't we? So me and you go away on holiday for a couple of weeks. And then when you get back from that, it's pretty much like full on editing. So I feel like it's a good time to go away when the final boss is complete. You sort of avoid
to know that, and I think we spoke about this a lot, kind of like going away from holiday, but being able to relax if you know that you've got lots looming. So I think, I've kind of like earmark those first couple of weeks of October to really kind of go hard on the edits then, so that I go away with a more respectable pile than kind of feeling that I am leaving it. And I guess for you that's even harder, because technically when you go, when you fly off to Como later in the week, you are going for work. So it's not as if you're going on holiday, but at the same time it's not, you're out there to shoot and take in kind of what's going on. So it's not as if you want to be kind of, going out and shooting and then coming back to the hotel in the evening and sit there on your laptop, don't want to do a trailer for,
so I don't promise like anything within a certain amount of time. Sometimes I will do a reel like a few days afterwards, because I'm aware that if you post that on Instagram, like obviously it's fresh in their minds. It's like the previews, like the best photo from the previews gets posted on the couple's Facebook or Instagram, sorry. And then that's generally going to get the most reactions because the couple was most buzzing about it. Whereas if you give someone their film or highlights like a month later, some of that's died off, they've gone back to work, they might not even collaborate because they might have just posted too much wedding stuff at that point. But I don't promise really anything, so I don't really have that pressure. I'm going to take my laptop and maybe on the flight back I'll do something, but we're making a holiday out of it as well.
I think you've got to, if you are traveling that far, and like I say, kind of just for safety, to have a day or two before you go to kind of a place you've never been before, to recce and adjust to the heat and the rest of it. That although it is kind of pre-planning leading up to the wedding that you're going there for, I think you've got to take time to kind of soak in some of the culture and just have a little bit.
It's a new place. It's a nice place. It's a new place. Like there's maybe some places I wouldn't go and make holiday out of it, but one of my I don't do many destination weddings, and one of my things has always been, if I'm going to do them, they're going to be places that I want to go. So I'm not going to do a destination wedding somewhere I'm not that bothered about. And they're going to be, I can probably make a holiday out of it. Like the idea of flying out on the Thursday night, filming a wedding on the Friday, and then flying back on the Saturday morning, when I could I know it's like an experience or whatever, but I could do that here and get the same amount of money and not have the Thursday or the Saturday wasted and all the stress of having to plan the flights and the travel and everything. So I feel like unless it's the right wedding, like destination wise, I haven't I've had inquiries for certain weddings before, and it's been like I'm not too worried about going there, or it's going to be like logistically a bit of a nightmare around other weddings, and I've not been that bothered about taking them. So this one has lined up perfectly. The wedding is on Saturday, and it is an amazing venue in Lake Como called Villa Cipressi, which I'm pretty excited about. Like, it's just one of those places that as soon as I Googled it, I was like, I really want this wedding, but why are they booking us, sort of thing. Like that imposter syndrome really kicked in. But
I think again, I think as kind of a watcher of over the time that we've been doing the pod alone, kind of the venues you've started to reach then and the weddings that you've started to work this year, I think you've definitely seen a level up in your output, and that's come back with the type of weddings that you are now booking. But I think to have that level of awareness when taking on destination work is a really, really healthy place to be. And I feel that kind of COVID settled that a little bit, but kind of in those years previously, there were people kind of falling over themselves for destination weddings. And, people really saw that they were, kind of to charge any sort of reasonable money, or to kind of, they were the pinnacle of our industry, if you like, that kind of, if you weren't one of these people that was jetting off to kind of Italy or Ibiza or Spain or France kind of a few times a year, then you weren't worth your salt in our industry, or you weren't. And I think a lot of people now have realised that, whilst the more probability of sun or that kind of Mediterranean feel or whatever, it's, and again, much I don't like this word, the vibe of a destination wedding is what makes, I think a lot of time what makes the event. Yeah. The fact that people have all travelled to a foreign country for the sole purpose to celebrate with that couple. People react differently to, I'm going to a wedding at a venue 20 minutes from my house. Yeah. They still go up and do their normal run and put some washing on before they chuck their suit on
the dog midday.
And jump down. And we can just pop home and it doesn't feel as special. The fact that you've travelled out there with the sole reason you haven't got to worry about, am I going to leave the car at the venue because it's easy just to drive home so I can go somewhere on the Sunday, and so you don't fully immerse yourself. It's all of those things that make a destination wedding good. It's not always the fact that you are, you're in a foreign country.
This amazing place.
So,
and
to go to only take those weddings on the parameters of, that venue should excite you the same way that getting an inquiry for a big venue over here should, or the couple should be people that go, yes, I really resonate with these people, that I really want to have that extra level and, additional worry of travel and the rest of it, because I know that it's going to be a wedding that I want to be part of. Yeah. And not booking a wedding on the country or the fact that it's a destination alone.
100%. Equally though, I do think you said something to me a couple of weeks ago, and you said, because we were talking about this before, I think off camera, and I think you said, but equally these destination weddings and sort of posting them and getting the BTS out and stuff, that can give you that sort of boost that you need to charge a bit more.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Because even if someone's getting married in the UK, they see that people are flying you out here, there, and everywhere, and that can give you that little bit more of that exclusivity. Oh, my videographer has just been to Italy to do this, and has just been here to do this, and there is a bit of that as well, and I'm aware there's a bit of that. So and
I think it's striking that balance, and and I don't want to kind of say I'm completely U-turning on what I've just said, but yes, there is a perception or that kind of provenance that comes with being talked in. My photographer shoots a lot destination. It does really well to raise your profile. Yeah. But at the same time, your profile does not pay your mortgage, and so it's having that balance of and even if someone said to me, I want you to fly you to the most exotic place to shoot the most wonderful wedding in the world, I don't think there is many places now that I would still go, yes, I will do it for flights, or I will do it just for this. I don't think now that maybe and maybe there's some people out there that really do fall over themselves, and I think you've got to get those weddings at the right time in order to deliver.
I mean, this one is pretty much paying for a holiday, but nothing else. I'm not charging a ridiculous amount for it. It's not like, here's my package plus all the travel and everything. This one's pretty much we agreed a price. I was pretty aware that price would pay for a holiday for two of us, and that's about it. But I was happy to do it because the place was nice, the venue was nice, and the couple were right. That's the other thing as well. It could equally be I really want to go to this place, really nice. You chat to the couple and they're not your couple.
But that's it. If you got
these guys are bloody lovely, honestly, genuine. They clearly put a lot into the wedding, and spent a lot on it, of course. But also they're just really down to earth people, and pretty similar to me and Kate as well.
So again, even if they were getting married at a venue in the UK, they would still be your ideal client.
Yes, and that's big.
And I think that's probably the good thing to kind of wrap up that point, rather than go around in circles, is that they still need to be your people, and there still needs to be a reward in there, doesn't there? Where if someone said to you, we're getting married at, I don't know, this venue, the couple were kind of, you didn't get a great feeling from them, but that you were going to go out there to literally break even just to get to have that perception of, oh, I've shot at a chateau in the south of France.
Yeah.
The whole experience could end up being more damaging than the provenance that it gives you from going.
I've done that this year. I booked a couple who I didn't feel like we gelled well on the call, but I really, really wanted to shoot at the venue, and it did put me down for a while, put my confidence down for a while, because they weren't my couple, and it's really, really.
And then
difficult.
even though you've been to the amazing venue, you don't want to post it because they're not your couple.
It
You
feels
don't
like,
feel that it's on, and in the end you blame yourself more and the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if you then potentially turn down UK weddings for a travel day to go to a destination, not only have you financially lost, you come home from it then probably with even more self-doubt, going, oh, I thought this was going to be this and the rest of it, and it's not been.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where, do I even really want to post the BTS that I took because I don't feel great about that? And it's difficult,
True,
isn't it?
yeah.
And I find some of it is like, particularly when it falls in the summer, like I think it's either today or tomorrow at time of recording, which is a year since I went to Malta, which was my first and only destination wedding, and I've still actually shown very, very little of the BTS.
No, you don't. Yeah,
and I had a reel half made on my phone. I think I got back and was like, I edited it, delivered it, and then kind of moved on enough. And then once kind of it got to the winter here, I was like, well, there's no way I can really just keep showing like Malta in summer, where it sounds like I'm maybe just kind of gloating or whatever. And as time's rolled on, now I'm kind of like, it's only coming back around now that it's a year this week that I kind of feel that the window to post that stuff has come back around again. Yeah. So hopefully I'm going to try and pull something together for that, because it seems timely to do it rather than just kind of going along and like dropping the destination.
But looking at your work
in the middle of a feed,
your work, like I've said it to you quite often, that you don't show location. You show people and you show things, but like you never really know where you've shot. And so for you to then come up with this like picture of this like beach in Malta,
it
like,
stands out more.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, these change of style suddenly. Whereas like there are obviously a lot of photographers and videographers that shoot most of their stuff, or a lot of stuff that they post is destination based, and so you look at their work and it'll all sort of blend in, and it's like, oh, this one's from this country and this is from this country. With you, I feel like if you posted that big wide shot of like, oh, this is Malta and this is the couple, tiny couple.
It's not me. Most of my work is done in the shop. It's really close to the couple one with very little of background.
And it doesn't matter where you are.
It doesn't matter.
And equally, your couples probably don't care either. Like your couples are like very grounded and down to earth. Like, are they really going to be like, oh, my photographer shot a wedding in Italy? Like, they're probably not going to be like that.
They book me because of how I am around them, not for the places that I've been. I think that's fair to say. But I think also as well, it's like the fact that you are having to then travel in summer and the rest of it, it does come with its challenges, doesn't it? Trying to navigate Como at probably a really busy time, trying to fly in school holidays, flights are more expensive, and the rest of it. Like it's difficult, isn't it? You probably can't hear it on the microphone that my dog is reverse sneezing, which I know we've had this in the past, and Chris finds it oddly hilarious that he does get pollen stuck in his nose. So
is it okay? Is it all right? Yeah.
I'll go and have a look. Okay. I'll put your mind at ease. Thank you. Okay, you could tell people about something.
Okay, yeah. So while Tom sort of set the pollen in the dog's nose, So booking Como has been, a bit of a pain as well, because it is like middle of August, it is school holidays, and there's just been some logistical difficulties as well. And I don't know whether this is going to be the same. It's probably different for every destination wedding, because some of them are more accessible. Okay, good, he's fine. But particularly Como, there's been, so if I did a holiday, normally what I'd do is arrive at the event at the airport and then get like an airport transfer or something.
Yeah.
That's not as easy in Como. So it's like, do we get a car and drive up there? In which case, like, we've then, when we explore and stuff, we've probably got to drive around the little towns and stuff, which I didn't really want to do because I'm not confident driving on that side of the road as it is. I've not done it often, but let alone driving in Italy where the drivers are nuts anyway, and in these tiny little towns. So it's like, okay, we'll get a train, have to get like 2 trains there, which again is probably my fault for not driving, but that's something that we've settled on now. So we're getting a train. Then there was the accommodation situation, which as soon as accommodation was released, it was like snapped up because it's mid-August, right? So the couple recommended to us, a couple of our guests are staying here, like snap this accommodation up quick. Yeah. So we booked this accommodation. It didn't have really much about it at all, not many reviews or whatever. But
you obviously based
the couple been there loads, right? So we thought, but like we'll go there. The couple I don't think had stayed there, but they'd done their research on what was close to the venue and whatnot. So a couple of weeks ago, we're like, okay, we'll check the place we're staying and everything. And the reviews were for the last year was so bad, like literally 1 star. And me and Kate, we're quite bougie as it is. And so
you're certain used to a nice hotel to stay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult to find like a really, really nice hotel out there. I feel like that you either get like quite an old school, looks like it was built in the 70s kind of place, or you go top really expensive and that you get like a nice place. But yeah, you're talking like stained bed sheets, stinks, like they don't, you know, nothing works in the rooms and whatever. And I just thought, you know, if I'm going out there, I don't really want this.
But also as well, there is a balance. And I know a lot of people when they do book to stay away, you know, and there's kind of, you know, a lot of photographers that do travel around the UK a lot, they kind of have their guessing games on their stories of, you know, which Purple Palace am I staying at tonight, and
I love a Premier Inn.
Stuff like that. Yeah. But I think if you are going away, and I know for kind of the, you know, the nerves and the worry that comes with kind of having your kit and, you know, being away, I'd at least like to know that the place that I'm choosing to base myself out of for the 3 or 4 nights that I'm there is going to be almost my sanctuary.
Yes.
I don't want to get to a point where I almost want to spend all of my time out because the place that I'm staying at is so divey, or that you have to take every ounce of your kit with you everywhere you go. Yeah. Like you're walking around the local supermarket with your camera bag on because you're worried that someone's going to nick it out of your hotel room because the door doesn't lock properly or something.
I think you all shared a kitchen and stuff like that, so it was very it was not a bit of us. So then we had to cancel. So we cancelled that, and it was like 100% refund, so absolutely fine. Then like the places we looked at, because again, like we're now a couple of weeks before, or was then a couple of weeks before. So then we had to look at places within our budget a couple of weeks before. Obviously, everywhere's booked
in summer in Italy.
Summer.
Yeah.
So eventually, we found an Airbnb which looks really nice. Was within our budget. It was actually, I think, cheaper, and it's literally wall to wall with the venue, which is really nice. But it wasn't available for the last night that we're staying there. So now we've sort of shifted the plans, and the day after the wedding, we're just going to head to Milan and stay in Milan for a night.
Because you're flying back from there anyway, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. So we'll be closer to the airport anyway. But just the whole thing has just been like just thinking about like doing that just for a wedding. Luckily, we're getting a holiday out of it.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of it,
say a holiday, you're a couple of days break.
A few days break out of it. So luckily, I think we'll get to the end of it and be like, okay, that was worth it. But I think, in future, we're going to have to look at where it is, how easy the transport is to get to it, and what time of year it is.
Because you're looking at this as a standalone experience. Yeah. This is your one destination wedding of the year. Where if you were looking at to a point where this is going to become, you know, if you look forward and go, this is a market that I want to adopt, I want to take on, 5, 6 destination weddings a year, you've got that level of logistics then for all of those places. And I guess if you're in kind of an ideal scenario, go to the hotel that they're shooting at, love it, and the kind of that relationship blossoms from there, and you find that you were going back to that same time. If the Airbnb that's wall to wall is good, you would almost try and book the same, so the logistics become easier the more that you go, in the same way that now if you shoot at a certain venue in Kent, you need to go and get to that Premier Inn or whatever, and it becomes more sort of at one, doesn't it, from familiarity. But in kind of like what we were saying with the charging, is if you probably look at the hours that you've spent facilitating, albeit some parts of your holiday, but it's still kind of all of those hours that it's taken for you to kind of worry about how to get there, do this and do that. It's serious time, isn't it?
It is, yeah, exactly. And the mental effort as well, like mid-season of like being like, okay, I've got this wedding tomorrow, but I'm really thinking about this Como one next week that I've got. So I'm really looking forward to it. I don't want to put a negative spin on it. I love the idea of it. Again, the venue is incredible. The couple are lovely. And I'm looking forward to like meeting people out there and exploring the area. So it's just been logistically a bit of a pain. And I guess that's why I see a lot of people in the wedding groups just saying like, I don't bother with destination weddings anymore because I'd rather save the money and go on holiday and not have to worry about work. And I think my ideal situation would be to do 2 or 3 a year and leave it at that. That 2 or 3 good destination weddings, nice couples a year, maybe places I haven't been or places that I have been and like know the logistics for already, that kind of thing.
I think for me, I think it'd be that. I think I would like, you always have kind of a level of scrutiny or refinement from your kind of branding anyway. Yeah. But I think that microscope becomes even tighter. I think if I don't advertise for destination work because I don't want to kind of attract a wide net of inquiries for it. Yeah. But I'd like to think that if a couple, my work spoke to them enough and they happen to be getting married abroad. Yeah. Again, I think like you said earlier in the episode, I'd have to get on with them. It would be somewhere again that I'd have to want to go or see the excitement of the event happen or the reason for it. But kind of for me, it is kind of looking back at kind of a year ago now. Yeah. I think I spoke about it in the last episode that came out with Mike, the mental health episode. That I think I've probably never been closer to kind of like a full blown panic attack as the night before that destination wedding there. But then at the same time, I also remember finishing that wedding and being on such a high and feeling so rewarded that I'd done it. Yeah. I'd done something which was really kind of out of my comfort zone. Yeah. I'd gone and, and shot in kind of this big Catholic church and taken them and driven the couple with my little car down this way. So kind of the payoff now looking back was worth the worry. And I think a lot of my worries always stem from fear of the unknown. So I think maybe some of that wouldn't be there now that I have done it. So I'm not trying to say that to put you off, but it's being aware to anybody who's looking at doing these things that they say that level of organisation, panic, kind of imposter syndrome, I think is heightened around.
I'm looking at it from someone who's only gone through so far the worst bit, but now the best bit is to come. Now I get to on Thursday, I get to fly out, I get to film the wedding abroad, I get to have the trip away. So at the end of it, like you say, all the positives would have come from this weekend that's coming up.
And I think also sometimes the best things always do come out of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, or kind of that little bit of hardship. You don't realise how good it was until you've had that little kind of the work that you've put in to make it happen. If something comes to you really easily, you're just kind of like, oh, that was nice. Yeah. Because you don't feel you've almost earned it. Where with this, I think you definitely have. So I really hope that you do go and love the experience. And
I'm looking forward to it. So just to rewind then, it's been a while, so there's a lot of things that have happened since we've been away. So we got a few things that we wanted to get off our chest and talk about.
Yeah, and some of them I don't think we need to spend ages on because they probably have kind of been and passed and righted themselves. But I think as we are a podcast of the people and, some of these things have happened to us that I think that it is worth kind of talking about. And I guess the first one that I do want to kind of touch on is Google Gate. If you are in the industry, you heard all about this, and obviously you sadly fell victim to it, didn't you?
Yes, exactly. So TLDR, one photographer posts on a Facebook group in one area of the UK saying, to get your SEO, to get best SEO practices, I've been recommending to people, and I've been doing this. I've been reporting people on Google, reporting people's businesses on Google, so that they get taken down, so that my business gets put higher. This is that photographer that's posted this. And then obviously people see that and they're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So you've got like probably a very, very small minority of people who are seeing that going, oh, I could probably do that. And then a vast majority of people going, what a twat. Yeah. Why have you posted that, basically?
And again, as a podcast like us, or even just as human beings, like we are all about community over competition, helping lift each other up and, encouraging everyone to be better. So for the fact that there are people amongst our industry that have a very kind of, I will try to get ahead by setting somebody else back. Yeah. I think that's probably the most saddest thing about all of it.
Yeah. So obviously, like it's been spoken about over and over, so we're not going to get too far into it. But yes, it did happen to me. In our area, I believe I was top if you typed in wedding videographer of the maps bit, not necessarily top of like Google, but where it comes up with like the maps and the businesses, I was there because my reviews are quite high. That I've been around for a while, that sort of thing. I'm like trusted by Google. But yeah, so one day I woke up, I saw on the FedWed Instagram page, they were like, stuff is happening this morning, so please change your Google business to this. And I was like, that's really bad, I can't believe that's happened. And checked mine and it was gone, and I was like, you are joking. And the feeling, like it was like heartbreak, like it just at that time I didn't know what was going to happen or what was even the story behind it. All I knew is that someone had reported my Google business page. I think that's
the bit that hurts the most, isn't it? Is someone has actively tried to sabotage, and for them it might have been a cold act of just, it'll get me ahead. Yeah. But you don't realise that, that by actively damaging your Google ranking could damage your inquiries, thus your business, your ability to earn, pay your mortgage, and all the rest of it. And I think it's that bigger thing, isn't it? All they can see is, but it's a fun tactic, and someone on the internet told me it's okay, and greenlighted them. But you are actually affecting people's lives and livelihood. And,
just to see that there's a person behind that business and there's a mortgage and bills and maybe even kids behind that business that you've just reported. Like I do feel like our industry is very like empathetic anyway. But to be that person who does that, like you've got to have some. I don't know.
Your moral compass has got to be flickering somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I think either that or your work is shit, and you're trying to get one above.
I think that's probably the most damaging thing, isn't it? Is that we do this podcast. We will try and do anything, which will come on to a workshop point in a moment, to kind of to help people get better. And yes, some of those people are in our area. Yeah. And I think we'd both be naive to think that probably some of the people that we've helped along the way probably in the end haven't then taken inquiries that might have come into our inboxes. Yeah. But as long as we all get enough work to do what we want to do, it's fine. Yeah. And I think the fact that somebody's out there that actively wants to try and, rather than spend the effort and the time marketing themselves better, ranking themselves better, or skilling themselves up. The easiest thing is to try and hide that better competition to get you a booking.
Yeah.
That's what I find baffling.
Yeah. And so it did happen to me. I obviously appealed it immediately. I sent like a tax return. And people were saying like that people were getting reported because you had your business address on there, and technically your business doesn't have an address because you're doing a service.
Yeah, because you haven't got signage at the front of your house or whatever to say that this is like my shop
cover
front
an area
or whatever. Yeah.
But I didn't have my business address on there, so I did cover an area. So for some reason, mine got taken down anyway, regardless of that. So I don't really think it mattered, to be honest with you. I think if it gets reported, Google, for just to be safe about it, just took you down.
And I guess they kind of had a delete first and then ask questions later policy, which I think happens on, sadly, a lot of the meta things as well. If people's Instagrams get reported, I think for them it's easier to kind of pull the plug on it straight away before they even look to review stage. And almost if nobody bothers to report, then they deem it's not important enough anyway. But the fact that, that they were questioning the legitimacy of your business, the fact that you have to actually send them, a HMRC document to prove that you are a business, that you have been a business for a number of years, and that there is,
they have enough information on me to clone my person, honestly. I sent them the HMRC document.
Which is crazy, really, that you have to go to that level.
Yeah, that length, to be like, I'm a business, I promise. And so I did that appeal. Then about a week later, it came back for all of about 12 hours. And then it disappeared again, or it stayed there, but my reviews disappeared. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? Like, I was absolutely buzzing. Yeah. And then the reviews disappeared. And I was like, okay, this is strange.
Which is the bulk of what you wanted it back for. Like, you could easily make another profile, although it wouldn't have that longevity of and kind of authority for ranking. But if you've got a wealth of, previous clients that have said nice things about you, that carries a lot of weight when people are looking to book a videographer, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or photographer. Yeah.
So I went to the Summer Coactive party that you hosted, and I was talking to people about it there, and they looked up my business, and they'd found it, but it was now in Germany, and it was a duplicate profile, and it had all the reviews, but I had no access to it, so I suddenly couldn't get the one I had access to. It was a duplicate, had no reviews, and they're like basically just starting from scratch. So I was like, okay, what's going on here? So eventually, by lying to Google's little contact thing and saying I was contacting them for a different reason, I managed to get through to someone and be like, my thing was duplicated. I haven't got access to the one. And after a few back and forths, he was just like, okay, I'll merge it for you, give you access to it.
Nice.
And he did, and it immediately happened, and it worked perfectly. So you were talking about, I think it was about 2 weeks later by the time everything was sorted.
But again,
it's damage in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but in the middle of a busier season where there are enough things to stress you out alone, of, again, trying to plan to go to a destination wedding, shooting UK weddings, fielding inquiries, all the other things that we have to do at a really heightened, busiest kind of peak point of our year, to have to spend time finding documents on hold to Google, live chats and the rest of it, just because somebody thought it'd be fun.
Yeah. And now I've got it back.
Yeah.
But I remember turning up to that coactive thing, and I felt naff. And we spoke about mental health in the last episode, but that properly did affect it, because I was like, what is the point anymore? All of that hard work and that. And yes, people might still book me and stuff, but that could push someone over the edge to book you. Yeah. And it's not there anymore. And all those reviews that I can claim I can't claim I've got them anymore because they're gone. Yeah. And just there was just that element of defeated in me.
And also as well, we're naive to think that this story would have transcended outside of our industry. Yeah. So it's not like when we were talking about the churches thing a few episodes ago, where it didn't make Radio 2, do you know what I mean, or the Daily Mail. So that if you spoke to a couple, they wouldn't go, oh, it's so fun. We've done our research. We know you're a real business. You suffered Googlegate. Yeah. They wouldn't have done that, or they wouldn't have found you in the first place, because Google is such an authoritative hub when it comes to people finding stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
We could make a whole episode about this, and I'm sure everyone's got a similar opinion. Hopefully that you've got similar opinions to us about it, and it is kind of really annoying.
But
the fact that you've got it back, I think, is the most important thing.
It's a good end to the story. But to anyone, because I know there's some people that posted in groups recently just saying I haven't got it back, or I haven't got reviews back, or whatever. Just keep trying with Google. Even if you have to lie to that, there's a little contact page on Google about for Google My Business. And when I put duplicate profile, it was like, don't worry, we're still sorting out your appeal claim. And it was it just kept saying that. So I just changed it to something else. I don't have control of my profile anymore. What's going on? Yeah. And then it was like, would you like to call us?
So it almost is like an algorithm they have to kind of get to a point where they give you
exactly.
Point,
and it might be like me that if you've got your stuff back and you haven't got reviews on it, it might be that you're profile has been duplicated and your reviews are somewhere in Germany.
Yeah, and I guess as well, down to sort of normal cookies and algorithms and stuff. If you look for yourself, you're only seeing it from your view, so it might be worth getting a colleague or a family member or someone to log on from a different computer in a different area as if they were a business to see what's finding them, because it wasn't until you spoke to the guys at the Coactive that they managed to almost have their like incognito head on to search for Spice Wedding films that then realised that you had now relocated to Germany. It was somewhere,
but yeah, exactly. And unfortunately it's still in Germany, but I'm too scared to do anything about it
at the moment. Let the dust settle first.
It still comes up under Hampshire, but when you actually click the map thing, it just shows me in the middle of Germany or somewhere, so it's interesting. But yeah, so I wanted to mention it, bring it up. There's people still going through it. Keep trying, because there are ways to get it back, I think.
Yes.
What else have we got? So on a positive note, I've had 2 weekends off in a row.
Nice.
In the last 2 weekends
I've got 2 coming up, I think.
On Saturday, have you?
Yeah, I think I've got 2 coming up.
Having that in the summer, like, don't get me wrong. So the aim is obviously to do less weddings at more money each year. Like, I don't hide that.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons for that is because weekends in summer, I would like to have more of them and be able to do more things and whatever, because summer just goes by so quickly, as you know. And having 2 weekends off was lush. One weekend I went up to London and sort of like did a few activities. And things.
You go to the new Battersea now. It's all
went
been
to
like
the new Battersea. It was the first time I've been there, and they had it all set up for the Olympics as well, which is pretty cool. Like the big like showing area out the front.
Nice.
And like, I'm not a massive fan of London. Like, I love doing day trips there, but I couldn't imagine living there or anything, or like spending significant time there. But like, spending time around Battersea, which is really nice.
I guess it's only like just on the edge of the city, isn't it? Like really on the edge, like kind of.
But so we went to this did this augmented reality like ping pong thing, which is pretty cool. They project like screens on it, and the aim is you don't really have to be good at the actual game.
So you don't have an actual ball?
You do have a ball. No, you do have a ball and a bat, and there's a proper table. So if you turned off the screens, it would just be like a normal table.
Okay.
But there are like mini games, so that like there's bits where there's like targets projected on your side. So instead of really having to play the game, all you do is just focus on hitting those targets. So there is incentives
to kind of land the ball in a certain area rather than just return it to the other side.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then in Battersea now they have like a lift where you can go up to like the top of the
in the actual like chimneys.
That's pretty much. Yeah. So you sit in it and you look up and you can see yourself going up to the top and all this experience. And so that was really cool. And then we drove up to Sheffield for a weekend as well, which was nice, and went to a place called Cannon Hall, which is a famous farm apparently. So it's on Channel 4, and it's like this working farm that has just happened to be on Channel 4 that's run by I think these 2 blokes, and now it's like a proper like commercial that people walk through it, feed the animals, like, and you can literally it's so like targeted at people now that there's literally vending machines of animal food that you go and pick the food that you want and they give you the animal food and then you go and feed the animal.
But it's even just the fact that have been able to, and I guess like a lot of people in our industry do, and get into that point where that it's just edit and admin all week, and then when your family's off, whatever, it is just it's a Saturday, of course I've got a wedding.
When it's a weekend.
Where kind of to realise that, and I only kind of had this, and like, albeit I couldn't really go anywhere because it was lockdown, but to actually experience weekends off for like the first time ever, really. I was like, because before I did this, I worked in retail, so our busiest day was a Saturday.
Yeah.
So then I used to take holiday from that job to shoot weddings, and then I didn't really have any holiday to do kind of much other stuff, or I might have had like an odd day off in the week that's probably caught up with kind of housework and stuff. So to actually have weekends where you can make plans with your friends that do work 9 to 5, or go and or have a day off with your partner who doesn't work, who only works 9 to 5. You do kind of realize how lovely that is, don't you? Like,
yes, it is. And to be like, to have a friend that message you and be like, do you want to do something? And you'd be like, yes, actually I can.
Free.
Yeah, the amount of times you kind of have to say, no, sorry, I got a wedding that day, because everyone suddenly wants to do everything in the summer, don't they? That is kind of nice. And I think there may be going forward, that I try and plan things a bit more in advance and be like, I'm going to take this weekend off and this weekend off and be like really settled on it. And next year, a little bit off topic, next year, I'm not really having to worry about that because we're about half booked for next year and 2/3 of them are weekdays.
Do you know what? I think this is happening. Yeah. I was chatting to my good friend Katie, who I run the Coactive with, and we had the same conversation on a walk a couple of weeks ago, that she was saying the same. She's at similar numbers to kind of me and you sort of booked.
Yeah.
And again, probably a quarter to a third of them actually fall on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I think I'm at the same. I think I've got I think mine at the moment is a bit more. It's kind of probably 60-40 split. But again, I'm still finding that I've got a Monday wedding next year. I've got a Wednesday. And I think I've got a couple of Sundays. But definitely I can see over the next sort of year, the landscape changing that way now that the weddings will happen on pretty much any day of the week. It won't just be we won't be weekend warriors, or far less than we kind of.
I would think that was an incredible job, right? If you do Monday to Wednesday of editing, Thursday and Friday do a wedding, and you get the weekend off, that would be great. If I could do it every week like that in the summer, I'd be happy. I think.
I think it's having that mindfulness, isn't it? Like, we control our own calendars.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've had, we've probably had more than
At the same time, you don't, because you don't want to turn something down if you're wanting a booking or if you had an inquiry.
But I guess it's having that, again, it's adding another filter to that pile, isn't it? Is when that inquiry comes in. And sometimes it's always hard if something really, really good does come in that you think, the couple are right, the venue are right, and the rest of it. But if you know that you are shooting the 3 other Saturdays in that month, and you go, by me taking this wedding, that means then that I do not have a weekend off that month.
Yeah.
That might sway your mind a little bit. And so I think, as you're building your calendar, maybe start to look at yes, I am free that day.
Yeah.
But when am I free around that?
Around the day,
or sometimes I've even had the option of, I'd actively like a Friday wedding that week, because even that means I still shoot a wedding one a week, but it means that I do still have the weekend off. Or to shoot like a midweek wedding is almost say, well, no, because I've still got a wedding that week now. It's not just brilliant, I can double up.
Yeah.
Is almost trading that off to go, well, because I've got a Thursday wedding, I don't need to take on a Saturday wedding.
Yeah.
Where before you just go, date's free.
And one day is not enough. If you got 4 Saturdays a month and you booked all of those 4 Saturdays, you might be like, because I do this a lot. Don't worry, I've got Sundays. It's all good. But like, one day is really not enough to like.
But I think you said to go away and do things, and I kind of leads into a little bit. Like, I had a wedding on Saturday that was a short coverage wedding.
Yeah.
I don't normally do short coverage weddings on the weekends. I haven't. I've always said no, that I want to keep my weekends free for full days. But because these guys only booked me, less than 3 months before the wedding, and I was having a pretty quiet August, I said, I'll take it on.
Yeah.
So I went and shot. They had an 11 a.m. ceremony, so I was at their venue by sort of like 9:30. I was done by 2, drove home, and I had the afternoon still sat in the garden to kind of have a drink, read my book, and then had the Sunday off. And I almost felt like I had such more of a weekend than. Like on the Sunday, I find that all of the stuff that you want to do then, by the time you kind of, do that kind of, you don't have chance just to be, because there's like housework to be done or stuff. So you feel the weekend just goes.
You're just catching up.
Or sometimes the other way, if I have a whole weekend off, like I've got 2 coming up, I've already booked to go away and see family, which will be lovely.
Yeah.
Like it'll be lovely to go and see the people I don't get to see enough because they do live, some hours away or whatever.
But at the same time, you're not just sitting in the garden and letting life.
You're not.
You're
not actually probably relaxing.
Yeah.
Because it's lovely to go and do that, but you're still kind of away from home or socialising or doing whatever.
So you have to do that because you have to plan that weekend before someone inquires and you're like, I've got that weekend free.
And I felt that, and we said it, like we kind of got our holiday at the end of the year booked in pretty soon after we came back from the other one, because we both had free time at that point, and we're like, well, that could change if bookings come on. So if you earmark that time. Like I was kind of that. You always look at the calendar. If there's a dot already there, you don't feel bad because it's already booked with something. Yeah. But just to actively turn down a job to do nothing goes against everything that you've been taught as a self-employed person.
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of managing like that, or also prioritizing rest and having the chance to say do the simple things on a weekend.
Yeah.
Like just sit about and do nothing, or watch some telly, or let's say lay in the garden and read a book.
Yeah.
That's so important,
mindful and
isn't
just
it?
Do you basically, isn't it? Rather than just being like constantly on your feet or busy at all times. Yeah. And you were saying because of that like shorter hours wedding that you might start, because at the moment you do it a little bit cheaper than your full
so
days,
at the moment I kind of offer, it's all on my website anyway, but I only kind of offer a full day rate, which I only accept. I'll accept because at any time, but then I also offer a 2-hour and a 4-hour package, but you can only book those Monday to Thursday traditionally. But again, because these guys are short notice, they said to me, would I only do 4 hours? And I think as well, a lot of it is I don't like to leave a wedding early if I feel the day's going to carry on without me, because I like, again, that kind of storytelling nature. I feel that, and maybe selfishly, sometimes the people that only want to book short hours like that are doing it because it comes down to budget. So you don't end up at maybe a wedding at the level that maybe you're at. They're just doing it because they can only afford you for that amount of time, where these guys weren't having an evening. They were having dinner.
So you didn't miss anything.
They were literally going to just sit around tables, have some cocktails, and then it was going to finish early because people were travelling off and the rest of it. So it was actively billed as a shorter day. Yeah. So I kind of didn't feel like I was kind of brought in for the wrong reasons, if that made sense. So I think, definitely in the future, it might be something that I I do start to look at on the weekend or advertise a little bit more for on the weekends.
Yeah.
But only, again, if it was booked short notice or if I knew I had some other full days in
the week or something. Yeah.
So again, if I had a full day in the week, I wouldn't feel bad about trading off.
Yeah.
And again, it's just having that ability to say, or that honesty to go, no, thank you, it doesn't work for me.
Or just look at your amounts and be like, I'm 80% booked for this year, so I'm going to start opening short days for the weekends.
Or knowing as well, also, and I think I've said this about local weddings in the past, where if you know in a month that you've got 2 or 3 weddings that are a bunch of travel away, and then someone offers you a wedding which is on your doorstep, sometimes it's nicer to take that booking, even though there might be a more attractive booking out there, just because you know that that's the one wedding that you don't have to do a 2-hour drive at the end of. And like, you know, in amongst the busy months, to have a wedding that you know that you'll be done by 2 PM and could be on the beach by 4.
Yeah.
That's really appealing.
Yes,
and you've still got money for that day.
Yes,
it wouldn't have been the money that you'd got for working a full day, but just take that few hours back in the evening to have some family time or go for dinner with somebody or whatever.
Or do the bits that need to get done so the next day you can chill and do your thing. Yeah.
So again, it was nice. I do have a quieter August. So I had a wedding last weekend, this wedding, that. I think I've only got one more now this week, which is another, again, a full day wedding, but on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And that's me done for August. I've got a music festival that I'm shooting the weekend after that. And then, say, September comes thick and fast with just busyness. So kind of, making the most of that time off before we go into that really busy period.
September's crazy for you, isn't it?
Feeling very ready for that.
To be fair, I think August has been quiet for me this year as well, really. Like, when I look at the schedule and think, I've got probably 1 a week in August.
Yeah.
And that for August is quite, but mine have been really spread out this year. So it has been a bit more like, I have, rather than the 10 in July that I had last year, it's been a bit more like evenly spread, which has felt good, to be fair.
I think it's probably the reason that we've probably felt so positive across most of the episodes that we've done. And I think it becomes a much more exciting, more prospect for the future, where before the idea of just accepting the fact that, I don't get a weekend in the summer, and knowing that my friends are going to go and do things without me, or my family have to make plans around me not being there, the idea of going, okay, there's 365 days in a year, I only need to spend 35 of them at weddings. And if people are offering me work that can be on a Tuesday or a Thursday or a midweek day, that is a much more exciting prospect that I can still get to do the job I love. And one of the only downsides to this job is I miss so much time at weekends. So if it's getting to the point where that's not the case anymore, then I don't see a downside to my job anymore. And so it's like we're fully living the dream if we can get to that point, aren't we?
Well, you still got weekends yourself. Yeah, no, that'd be nice. Should we finish it with some gear talk, because we love a bit.
I definitely should. Obviously, you've bought some new gear, haven't you, to kind of lighten the load going away. I bought some new gear. I actually put my hand in my wallet and spent some money on some cameras. We have bought some stuff. Yeah,
so essentially, this is probably just an excuse to buy stuff, to be honest. But no, so for Como, like, obviously I take a lot of stuff to weddings. Like, my light stands are 10-foot light stands. They're really heavy. They do not fit in any suitcases. And I didn't want to take one of those special light luggage and whatever. So I had to buy some light stands. Also lights as well. My lights are again quite big. Take those big NPF batteries,
but heavy as well as
heavy.
Bulky.
Yeah, exactly. And then and so I was like, I don't really want to take all of this out. So I've sort of condensed my camera and lenses, and I think I'm taking 3 cameras and 4 lenses, and I've got like 7 or 8 lenses. So I'm cutting down a few. But in terms of lighting, I really didn't want to take those big lights and the big NPF batteries that come with them and everything like that. So I bought these tiny little, they're called Xeon X60s, I think. And they're the same wattage as the big lights.
So the actual physical light they chuck out will be the same.
But they're just tiny. And they come with a little battery that attaches onto the side, but you only get like 50 minutes of battery out of it, which for a normal dance floor is okay, because I wouldn't normally stay that long anyway. But for me, I like to put it on, 15 minutes before the dancing starts, so that everyone gets used to the light being on there before they go on a dance floor. So I've got a little power bank that attaches to it now. These tiny little lights, and I think I might start using them like going forward for at home weddings.
They're smaller, it means you can tuck them into a corner more. They're a little bit more discreet, or again, less weight in the bag. Like, I know I would say that I kind of over the years have worked to be kind of the most minimal approach that I have. Where you still very much kind of fill the boot approach. Like, I'd rather have it all in my boot if I need it than selectively pack it. And so
but I mean, I mentioned this because I do actually get a lot of messages on Instagram about how I like my dance floors, which I didn't really think I would be known for, but apparently people.
Do you know what though? So we haven't talked about this, but in the meantime, since us last recorded, we've shot 2 weddings together.
We have,
and I just edited the first one of them last week. And I didn't realise how convenient that you like the dance floor made. So obviously, again, it's summer. They did like a 7:45 first dance at a barn venue outside, where it still has, albeit it was pushing towards golden hour, but it was still very much daylight. As I sometimes trying to have that kind of balancing out the light in a dark barn with a big window can be really hard. But I think it's one of my favourite dance floors. I photographed of that venue because you lit it. And so
so we had a sort of a light going opposite the window, didn't we, as well? I think so. I've always lit dance floors. I don't want that sort of groggy dark, and I get it that that's the natural way of shooting it and everything, and some people don't bother lighting it, and so you just get that sort of flat, and I think it's like a groggy look. Like you don't really see anyone's faces as like in detail and things like that, and my style is quite bright and vibrant, and if that suddenly goes to dark and lit with like heart lights by the DJ in the night, it just doesn't look right. So I always cross light. I put one light in one corner, one light in another corner, both 60-watt Amaran lights. And I get a lot of questions about it. But now I found these ones, I think they're even smaller. It will fit in a smaller bag. And at some point in the next year or two, I want to get to a point where everything fits in one bag and I'm not carrying like a side bag for my gimbal,
especially again if you start to branch out to other venues. Like at the moment obviously it's okay because most of your venues you can drive your car to, but for example if then someone booked you for say a London wedding where you were like, oh, do you know what, it's far easier for me to get the train in. How do you get the train in with like a light stand bag, 3 other bags, like and every that, where if you could get to a point where you could say I can almost roll with a small tripod bag and one rucksack and still deliver the same output. That would be a much.
I think Como is part of that. It's like, what can I get away with not taking? And just like, and as obviously, I could make a film with a Sony and a 50mm. Like, and I pretty much do that most of the time. But then there's like when the speeches come, it's like, oh, what lens do I use for this reaction? And today I've got a long table, so it means I've got to use this. Or today I've got a round table, top table, which I hate because you're trying to shoot over people to get the reactions and whatever.
And also as well, I don't know if anyone else suffers this, and I can say this because I'm a bold guy. But why is there always a bold guy sat opposite the speaker? Wherever you move, I feel like the bald head moves with you. And there's like even the point I think I shot a wedding at the start of the year where I actually managed to get like a festoon like reflection out of this bald guy's head whilst like in the bottom of my frame. I just feel like wherever you go, if you shoot a round table, there's always a bald guy. There is.
Yeah, and he's just in the corner of a frame while the groom's doing
like a little kind of shiny cylinder at the bottom. That's completely off topic. It was just kind of that always happens. Is anybody else? Maybe perhaps someone else gets someone with a hat. I don't know, but for me, it's always a bald guy.
I actually shot a really good round table one on Saturday. They had a round table, top table, which traditionally what I've done is put a camera as close to the table as possible so I could shoot over the head of whoever's sat in front of the bride and groom to get a reaction. But this time I literally like scooted the bride and groom to one side and made the speaker stand in the gap on the other side. So I had the speaker in a gap between people, and then the bride and groom were like just open from the other side, so I had a reaction shot going on. Nice. So just in like clearing up sort of half of that round table, I'd made it much easier to get shots of. But anyway, that's completely off topic. New lights, not exciting, but also I get asked a lot about them. So Xeon X60, they're really good, put out a lot of good output, get a good power bank for it. Nice. And obviously you can use the power bank throughout the day to charge your stuff as well. So, but your purchases are a little bit more exciting than mine. So
I don't know much about that. It's stuff that you already have. So I think it was the wedding that we shot together where they had an epic champagne spray. I got absolutely covered in it. So did you. So did they. Yeah. And I think that spelled the beginning of the end for my 35mm lens.
It comes full circle.
To be fair, it's drunk a lot of champagne. The first time it drank champagne was 3 years ago on a beach shooting with you in Brighton, and it drank so much champagne that it got condensation on the inside, and I had to leave it on a radiator at the venue when we went back out for the evening shoot. But then most people, or Chris's answer, would just go and buy a new lens. And I was like, no, it adds character. So I dried the lens out on the radiator, put it back on my camera, and I've considered to use it for the next 3 years of weddings. Probably well over 100 weddings, 120 weddings or whatever. And it got to the point, the wedding after that, where it was really slow to focus. It's made some really creaky noises. And a couple of times it just, almost the connections were going, it wouldn't register with the camera. And so, probably I did miss a couple, nothing important, but probably a couple of little moments. I was like, no, this lens has lived its life. It's done its thing.
It has to get to that point for you to change.
It does, I need to know that it's literally it's about to be in do not resuscitate territory before that I bother to get a new one. So on that same wedding that we shot just before my lens died, you let me borrow your 1.4, didn't you? The 35 1.4.
Yeah. Try it, mate. Try it.
G Master, trying to goad me to spend my money.
You're like, nah, it's too heavy. I'm not going to try it.
So I shot the groups of it, didn't I? The groups and a little bit of details, and was really surprised. I've always thought that it was marginally bigger than the 1.8. It is wider, it's slightly longer, but when I shoot 35 and 85, it's pretty much the same size as the 85 1.8, just heavier. So I was like, so maybe that the size thing. I was like, yeah, it's not as bad, but it's a little bit heavier. Used yours. Still think it's a little bit too sharp, but again, I'd rather have that there and then be able to knock it back than it not go. And I think the biggest thing that sold it to me, I think, was just the speed and accuracy of the autofocus. I didn't realise maybe how much mine at 1.8 had started to slip in that until I used the 1.4 and it literally grabbed the focus
so good.
really quickly.
And the fall off as well. Like, I'm not like a video snob, to be honest. I know I do video, but like, I crank the shutter. I'm not bothered about these sort of things. But the fall off. The fall off is
a lot more creamy, I think.
Yeah.
I quite like the janky ruggedness of the 1.8 one.
Do you? Yeah.
But again, some people again get really snobby about this and go, I wouldn't own that lens just because of, and a lot of people give the 55 1.8 that we've both got a lot of crap because of how
it's got sharp bokeh.
Because of the bokeh sharp. It really doesn't bother me. Like fall off is fall off for me. It's as long as you get good separation, don't care what shape it is. So that was one of the other things. So I decided that when I was gonna upgrade, it made sense. Again, I'm starting to charge more now. I kind of feel, not that my couples I think would ever notice that I'm using the 1.4 and 1.8, but I kind of feel that it's a good place to invest. It's a lens that I use more than any other. So it makes sense to have the best version. And also at the time as well, everyone knows my sad story of how I broke 2 cameras last year. I never actually I only replaced one. So since November when I broke my other A7 III, I've been using an A7 IV with the 35 on it, the A7 III with the 85 on it, and haven't had a spare. So up to that point, I've always had a third body in the bag so that I could continue to shoot my days with 2 cameras. I've been putting the Leica in there in my bag so that I've got something. If one of my cameras did die, I could use that because it's a fixed 28 as a 35 and do that. But I have kind of got through those years, always kind of in the back of my mind going, I do need to buy another body at some point. And then it wasn't until probably one of the earlier weddings that we shot in the year, or speaking to somebody, and we started talking about using the APS-C crop, didn't we?
Yeah.
So obviously, once I bought the first Mark IV last year, having that ability to crop the 35 into crop mode and it become a 50 has got me out of some real kind of pinch points on the day. And I've always kind of been, well, if I'm buying a new camera, do I buy another Mark IV because I don't like the screens, don't like this and that. And
that's the thing. I was surprised when you come back with another A7 IV.
And so that was the biggest reason, I think, in the end, as to why I bought another A7 IV. Again, it's the newer camera on the 3. I don't think I particularly need the extra, kind of some of the other features. I could have easily got by with the 3. The 3 that I had will still become my spare.
But being able to crop and still
being able to have 2 cameras that I can both punch into and it become, because a 33 sensor will then become an 18 at crop mode, which is still more than deliverable. To be able to have that on my 85 as well as on the 35. Will be lovely. It is lovely. I've shot 3 weddings with it now. And also I really underestimated how having 2 cameras that are the same.
I can't imagine you shooting at, what would it be, like 120 mil? Have you done a lot of crop?
I had a wedding where, again, to talk about speeches again, they had long tables. And the aisle in the middle was so tight that I couldn't get down it. So even with me being on this side, trying to shoot through people as I like to, it was really hard to get a good shot of the couple for reactions. At 85 there was still too much going on,
because you had to be a bit further back.
And at that point I think that was the bit where I was like, well, I'm punching in on the 35. If I could do that on the 85, I'd have this scene, I'd have this covered, have this sewn up. And I think that was probably the big light bulb moment for me to do it. Since then I don't think I've done it. I don't think I really have a need to buy a 135 lens or to have anything that telephoto. But if I was in a pinch, or even in a church, if I've known that I've had a church wedding coming up, sometimes I've always had the 70-200, which I hardly ever use, in the boot of my car, just in case I get that fear of you're at the back, kid. I've got something. Where I think now, unless I was in like a huge cathedral, I would be confident enough that I would just shoot the 85 punched into 120 from the bottom of the aisle, and it would still be tight enough. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I only use like that sort of focal length for bottom of the aisle stuff as well. So with photo, correct me if I'm wrong, but with crop mode, it's just basically the same as taking the full frame image and
cropping it in.
But I guess you just get to frame it up.
That's the thing. So I could still just shoot it as it was and crop it in post. But I think again, still want to try and get get the image as
how you remember it on the day.
Or just it's one less step to have to go through then. For when you are editing, I'm seeing the image much nearer how it is finished. And I don't try to crop as little as I can. Like I do try. I think maybe because I started as a film shooter, I always try and do frame a lot more in camera. I don't feel like I'm just grabbing, I'm not grabbing data to then make perfect later. Yeah. So I think just, seeing it cropped in, especially knowing that I'm probably not going to edit it for a month after I shot it.
And then you forget which ones.
I'll go, why did I shoot that so wide?
Yeah.
Where now if I can have the tighter version, it just makes a lot more sense. So so I had to go, and I shout out to MBP. I've always bought all of my gear from them. I think if you buy anything from them as like new or excellent, it comes pretty much as good as it had come out of the box.
Yeah, they are good. Yeah.
And so I bought my 1.4 from them and the A7 IV from them. It arrived literally the next day, packed up like bomb-proof, and so I always use them. So now I'm back to shooting.
If anyone wants to send this to MBP and they can sponsor us,
they can say nice things about us or lend us some kit and stuff. I think most of my kit that I've brought, and again, maybe it's something that people only ever buy new, but I think for the most part, I traded a lens to them, which I thought I'd barely had a mark on it, and they only ranked it as good. Yeah. So I was like, but if they think that's good, if I buy excellent or like new from them, I know it's going to be flawless. And also, I know that kit's going to come into my kit bag and be used. Yeah, so chances are after the first wedding, it's going to have a scuff on the hood, or it's going to have this and it's that. And as long as it functions and it's optically fine, that is good enough for me. So I kind of think, well, if there's a, I think with the 1.4, there was a £300 or £400 saving to me buying a like new from them as there was to me buying a brand new one from, say, like Wex or anywhere like that. And at least I know then that even though that is second hand, it comes with a 6-month warranty from them, but I could also send it to Sony and they would fix it. Where if you go down the options of Panamas or, those, you're buying grey imports then. If it does break, you are relying on their warranties rather than getting it fixed.
Which is very good. I'll add, because I was thinking about Panamas, because I get everything through Panamas. And they are so good, and they're 3-year warranty, and like I've not had to claim yet, but I've done my research on people that have.
I know people that haven't had it. I think for me, I'd like to know that I could just walk into Fixation, say in London, and go sort this, and it'd be done, or it's whatever. You're always buying sort of genuine copies rather than sort of grey market stuff.
Well, we're talking lenses actually. So I hired out a lens because. I like my gear as much.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yes, that was for one of the lenses that we shot together.
We were using it. Yeah, exactly. So it was the Sigma 28 to 45 1.8.
Which is pretty much brand new, isn't it? It only came out very recently, didn't it?
Yes, it only came out recently. And it is a big boy lens. But so I shoot 35 on one side and 50 on the other side, both 1.4 normally. But sometimes for like room shots, I just crave that a little bit more. Yeah. And I was sort of thinking, obviously, I only hired it, so I was sort of intrigued at the whole prospect of the thing, to be honest, because it's quite a cool little zoom range for a 1.8.
Especially to be 1.8 as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I could literally just have this as my gimbal lens, and it was a cracking lens. Like it was, I replaced the sort of 35 of it, so I had 28 to 45 one side.
So the 35 was covered.
Yeah. So the 35 was covered, and my 50 the other side, because that's what I shoot. I shoot most of my weddings 50 handheld. So every time the gimbal came out, the 28 to 45 goes on it. And like being able to zoom out to 28 for a few reasons. One, if you've got a particularly nice room that's decorated, and 35 sometimes, especially with the active crop, which makes it more of a 40 anyway, is a bit too tight.
Yeah.
So obviously for photo you get more of the sensor, so you don't really notice as much with 35, but with video it's a bit too tight.
So I guess even at 28 the distortion's not crazy. It's not like you're trying to use a super wide and then you're getting that kind of distortion. At 28 you would still see very minimal.
From your Leica it's a really good focal length, and I'm starting to like 28 again. I used to hate it, but I'm starting to like it again. I've bought a 28 f2 for like travel and stuff. But yeah, so having that 28 for that, and not only that, when you work with photographers who maybe shoot 35 and like to get right up in the grill, with me and my 50, I'd be putting the camera down because I couldn't capture anything because I've got, you know what I mean? Or trying to get a hand or something which probably wouldn't go in it. But then working with photographers on the couple shoots and having a 28 to 45, normally, if the photographer steps in, I can step in too, zoom out to 28 or whatever, and still get some sort of shot.
It gives you options, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I shot all of my couples at that. And verdict on the lens, TLDR, is that it's a lush lens, and the lens flare on it, I love lens flare, and it's really cool. So yeah, it was really nice to use. I enjoyed it. It was a bit heavy, but I think I would take that sort of compromise. And it's also made me think that maybe one day down the line I will buy that, because for a couple of shoots it was great. But 45 and 50 mil, like, I did notice a difference. Like, I noticed a difference in obviously like the range, but in how I was shooting as well. I look at my couples and I'm like, oh, that's not as zoomed in as it usually is. That's because I'm going to 45 and I'm not wanting to step in any further to the couple. Or I'm still trying, if you shoot 85 for some couples, and I'm there with my 45.
But I do treat my lenses very differently. Like, I know I'm using that 85 for stuff which is far away, or if I actively see some foreground interest, I would rather, like, if I was on a couple shoot, I had the couple walking towards me and I saw a really cool coloured bush or whatever, rather than I would actively go to the 85, run whack for them to use it to build layers, where you can't do that with a wider lens as well.
No, you can't. And that I did find that a bit more difficult, is like you say, building the layers. Like the 51.4 is quite easy just to get in a bush and have something in front of you.
And I guess as well, like, the fact that we spoke about this on a previous episode, that you upgraded to all of the G Masters. So the 35 and the 50 that you're using are the Sony ones. So for the stabilization and the rest of it, where the 24 to 28 to 45 is a third party lens, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how was it in that terms of worrying? Obviously, it's only going to be a gimbal lens, so that you haven't got to worry too much.
I did use it handheld. So that's actually something that really surprised me, is that I've always raved about how the G Master lenses have so much better stabilization. And I can literally, the sort of like aisle shot where you sort of walk down you're trying to get a shot of the ceremony room, and you're sort of walking down the aisle forwards. I can do that without a gimbal easy with a Sony camera. That's pretty impressive. With the 35 1.4. And so buying third party lenses now, I'm always a little bit like cautious about what I buy, because the Samyang VAF lenses I've got are amazing, but you try and walk with them and it looks naff. Like this, it's like they've got nothing in them. But this, for some reason, it had very good stabilization in it.
Maybe because technology's come a long way and it is a newer lens. Maybe
Sigma's picking up on the sort of active stabilization, and I couldn't tell the difference between that and my 1.4s, which. It makes a huge difference as well. Like I was literally, I sort of chucked all the footage into a timeline, put the grade over it, and I was scrubbing through, and I was like, so what footage was taken on?
Which is a really lovely place to be, because I imagine the price point of that is still a little bit more respectable against the G Masters as well. Yeah,
it's actually cheap. It's actually about the same, if not cheaper, than the G Masters if you buy it off of non-grey market sites. So. I think it's about just over $1,000 if you buy it on grey market, which is insane. For 45, 1.8.
And a 1.8, you're almost getting the fall off from a prime, but in the comfort of a zoom. Yeah.
So in the quest to sort of reduce my gear, maybe down the line that'll be something that I get. Not now. I'm happy with my setup, but I'm happy that I got it. And
or if circumstances changed and you find yourself catching more planes than cars to weddings, then you knew that you could almost do a 2-for-1 trade-off of lenses.
It covers a 24, it covers a 35, and it covers most of a 50. So,
like in a pinch, you could say leave the 50 at home as well and use that lens. And probably then one less body, because you're not shooting. If you were having a wedding where you were shooting solo.
But it's good, glad I did it.
Good.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
I think we're well and truly caught up now, aren't we? And it's been a good chat. We've covered a lot of things. I feel like the catch-up's been as vast as long as it's been since we spoke last.
We technically have another episode coming out, which is going to be it would have been out by the time this comes out. It's going to be the Mac videography episode. So we could have left it a little bit longer, but we kind of thought we've got so much to catch up on that we don't want to just do 2 hours.
And also, we don't want to brush over. Like now that we've kind of spoke about the prep that goes into the destination work, I want to hear from you when you get back from Coma about how amazing it was, how the experience was once you are on the other side of it, where
that's it.
You maybe might have forgotten some of these kind of more harsh truths about it when you come back with a belly full of pizza and a suntan from the Italian sunshine.
The mid-season, oh my god, this has been logistically a nightmare. It's just going to be like, once it all goes swimmingly and that, it's going to be like, oh, so worth it. I'm so happy, can't wait to show everyone everything.
And again, I guess in sort of closing points as well, is we would say is that thank you to all of our guests that has been on. Hope you've enjoyed the guest episodes that we've done. We maybe ended up with a couple more in the end that we ever thought that we might do.
We did,
because guests started approaching us, which is definitely not a bad thing. If you want to come on and speak to us, then drop into our DMs.
Drop us a message,
we do still want to kind of keep these episodes being the core of kind of what we do here at Capture Co. But we are going to try and find to kind of have a nice mix, aren't we, of guests and these. And I guess the last thing that we need to do is we need to do the sales pitch now, don't we?
Like the workshop.
Is that since obviously the last episode came out, we hadn't firmed up everything, so we kind of spoke about it in tongues a little bit. But now everything, the venue is booked again. We have the date. We actually have some people attending as well. So some of the spaces have gone. So yeah, if you missed out on coming to our branding and marketing workshop that we ran in May, we are going to be doing probably 85 to 90% of that workshop again, but with an extra sort of 10% of spice. We're going to make it up, kind of polish it up a little bit, kind of go back on the largely positive feedback that we had, and then rerun it all again on the 19th of November.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like all the feedback was positive, but at the end of the day, obviously you're your own worst critic.
Yes.
So we look back at it and was like, this went so well. Like it went better than I could ever expect our first workshop to go.
Definitely, yeah.
But I thought that like the marketing bit and the website bit was the website bit was really like helpful. And that was kind of towards the end. So we're doing it in a way that the really positive, the big bits are focused on more.
I would say, and I think if you are thinking about coming and you've spoken to people that went to the last one, the branding part will remain relatively untouched.
Yeah.
I think the marketing bit, I think we tried to probably, if anything, try to include too much.
Yeah.
So we ended up talking a little bit about a lot of subjects. So this time we're going to refine that in a little bit and say, hopefully, that will leave us more time for the web reviews so that the actual actionable stuff that you can walk away with to implement will be more
valuable and more descriptive.
And also, in November, it's a perfect time for it. Yeah. Hopefully, you've shot most of your weddings of that year, so that then if you're starting to do those kind of website changes and brand tidy ups, ready to kind of go into kind of the new year and kind of new start and the rest of it. So if anything, this one might be more strategically placed in November than the May one was.
Yeah, we did it in May, didn't we? And I know some people were like, I've really been meaning to do that thing to my website, but because wedding season hit straight afterwards, it's been difficult. But if you have in November, like you say, like a website review, some people just to have a look at it, and sometimes it does take someone else just to have a look and be like, do you realise you might be targeting the wrong kind of couple by having this on your site or something like that? And people did find that useful and have implemented some of the stuff that
and also if you shot a year of weddings and you can start to see the branding that you've got is maybe not attracting the couples that you want, or you can see your work going in a different direction and you feel the branding you've got doesn't match it, or any of those things, and you're starting to think about a rebrand, like I wouldn't say that me and you are practically a consultancy agency, but to spend a couple of £100, have a really nice day, a lovely lunch, and hang out with some other people and learn something about branding, that might be a really good first step. Rather than going straight to a brand designer going, this is what I want, you might have a lot more insight and feel a lot more ready to tackle that project alone, or equip your designer with what you want from it.
That's the important thing.
Your designer, much more.
Your designer knows what they're doing in terms of design, but they don't know who your target audience is, or what your target couple, or the types of venues you want to shoot at. Yeah,
or also what your work is like. Yeah. And I think that that was kind of one of the biggest takeaways from the last workshop, which I won't try and drop too much, is even people picking colours because they thought they liked that colour, not kind of making it reflect the work that they make and kind of how much a single kind of hex number can have such a huge reflection on your vibe. So in short, hopefully that's enough of that's convinced you to come. Again, we're going to try and keep it a fairly small group. So I think there's going to be sort of a maximum of 8 on the day, and some of those places have already gone. So don't think too much about it if you do want to come along. Yeah,
it's one of those where it's mid-wedding season. You might be thinking, once I've done a few more weddings, and it's calmed down, I'll get a ticket. But tickets are selling. So it's going to be one of those where there's a few people that messaged me last time that, sorry, I didn't get a ticket, mate, and that sort of thing. So get on it if you're listening to this and you are thinking about it. 19th November, Cozy Club.
In Guildford.
Branding and marketing workshop in Guildford. Yeah.
I think that's an amazing place to leave it. So thank you for listening to us and kind of catching up with our ramblings. Hope you enjoyed the guest episode that came out last time. And then if you've got any suggestions for not only nominating yourselves for guests, but if you have people that you would really love to hear from that you maybe haven't heard on a podcast, or you have something you would like to hear from them about, we can do our best at twisting their arm to get them on. So fill our emails inbox, with your suggestions of what you'd like to hear from us. Or if you want to hear topics just from us and you don't want any more guests, you just want me and Chris to talk about.
I like these episodes; they're good. Yeah, little mini topic episodes.
Give us some topics as well. So
yeah,
that's
amazing.
The place to leave it.
Well, thanks for watching.
We'll see you in the next one.